it's time for the Veteran's Voice.
The Veteran's Voice.
And I'd like to say, Hugh, but I don't want to call you Hugh Van Andre, do I? I want to call you Hugh Andre.
Hugh's fine.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Good to see you back. This is, of course, the spot where, if you haven't seen it before, we attempt to bring veterans' issues to life, to the fore. We've done some great work so far.
Yeah,
and today you're going to talk some more about recruitment. Gareth Williams is here with us as well. Gareth, good afternoon to you. Director of Veterans Engagement and Development, Job Oppo. We should kick off, I suppose, with a roundup of the week's news and a catch-up on what you've been doing.
Absolutely. So I noticed that for those who were involved, and I have to say I sort of raised an eyebrow, the nuclear test medal has been approved and launched in recognition of all those who willingly volunteered to take part in nuclear testing of the weapons back in
this was back in the sort of 50s?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Back in between 1952 and 1967. And I have to say, I was sort of thinking about it. I think the only people I've ever known, served with, and, you know, proud enough to work with, and I'm mad enough to actually volunteer.
And some of it took place here, didn't it? And some of it
some
took
here,
place
some abroad.
Sort of in foreign parts.
Absolutely.
South Seas and that kind of thing.
But thankfully...
But you see the videos of it, and you see these guys just kind of peering over sort of sand dunes and things, looking at nuclear...
Well, I suppose fairly timely as well, with Oppenheimer out as well. So I'm not sure... I can't believe for one moment the government timed that for the Oppenheimer launch. But, you know, strange things happen at sea.
And so these are being given out to anyone who's still alive who's doing
those who are alive, and quite right so. Quite rightly so, which, you know, that's the government finally recognising them for what they did, which, nice segue onto our... Gulf War syndrome.
Yeah. I was just going to say, though, before we move that, if you are a veteran who was involved in that and you haven't heard from the government, or will you be hearing from them? Should you apply for it? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, you should do, but they're not always the best at communicating.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, you need to go onto the sort of, gov.gov website.
And could you get one, say, for example, if you had a father or somebody else who's already passed away?
I believe if you were a dependent, if your mother or father took part, but I have actually gone onto the site, and it is pretty straightforward. And you just have to, you know, fill in the blanks and provide your information, and they'll get back to you on it.
Cool. All right. And Gulf War syndrome, which we talked about.
Well, this is really interesting, and obviously it's something which I was involved with myself. And I'm delighted to say that the Veterans Minister, Johnny Mercer, has now formally agreed a meeting with us on the 6th of September. So I shall be going with Hilary Meredith Beckham, and we will be sitting down with the Veterans Minister, outlining concerns, issues, and then looking for a way forward. And ideally, one, to have, you know, an investigation, a formal, transparent investigation into the facts, what happened.
I mean, has anybody ever looked at the actual vaccine to see what was in it?
We've got a rough idea what was in it. There is records of certain chemicals that were put in. There are one or two chemicals missing from medical records. So, watch this space. I'm just delighted that the Veterans Minister has agreed. That's a step in the right direction. You know, and for all of you out there, please just stand by, and we want to do this in the right and proper way. When I announced this, actually, a former veteran, Annabelle Jameson, actually knitted a camouflage tea cosy and sent it to me as a thank you. So thank you very much, Annabelle.
That's nice. I mean, people are very, very sort of wedded to what we're doing at the moment. I just want to make that point as well. That you know, if you do have you know, information about anything, or you want to pass anything to us, you know, by all means do so, because, you know, that way the audience gets bigger, it gets more informed. All of that. Yeah,
it does. And, you know, one of the things which, you know, Gareth and I were talking about earlier, the whole veterans community in this country is so fragmented. You know, there's lots of, dare I say it, little people like me and Gareth and others trying to do our bit, whether it be on training, on housing, with, you know, Ken with his house building, with Badger at Noon Craig, with Nicky Scott up there. It's so fragmented, and really what we need to do is pull it all together onto one platform, because actually then veterans become aware of what is available to them. And not just that. I mean, I was talking again with Gareth earlier about employers. So, you know, a big defence employer who we've provided a lot of manpower to didn't realise that they could have a national insurance holiday for 12 months if they recruit a a veteran straight out of the services.
Yes.
That's £6,000 a potential saving,
right,
which of course they can reuse to retrain.
Yes.
But unless the government tells the rest of the country, the private sector, the public, unless it tells the veterans themselves what they're entitled to, right, they don't know a lot of the time.
Exactly. Well, let's introduce ourselves to Gareth Williams, Director of Veterans Engagement and Development, Job Oppo. Tell us about Job Oppo, first of all, Gareth. Welcome.
So, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. So, Job Oppo is an employment community, and obviously, Hugh and I's paths crossed, with that in mind. And we focus on connecting veterans and service leavers with organisations or employers that want them, for their potential, for their skills, for their experience, as well as their trainability or coachability. So and we use often the veterans that are already in a workplace who can vouch for that individual who's coming in behind them. He or she is like me. If you like me, then this one's 20 years younger, or whatever it may be. So.
Right. And is that kind of based on they were in the same regiment together or anything like that?
No, I mean, the beauty of the affinity of the veteran community, wherever you come from in the world, means you've worn a uniform and that trust is there automatically.
Yeah.
So you're halfway into a solid conversation.
Right.
And that we see that every day. It doesn't matter what colour uniform you wore, when it was, where it was, as long as you're a goodie, then you're okay.
And does it tend to be certain types of industry or certain types of business that people go into?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certainly sectors that recognise the skill set and recognise the potential. Facilities management, for example, construction, security. These are kind of well-trodden paths. But also, a lot of the work that we try to do is say, look, let's look at the creative industry, for example. What is that? What does that look for? What sort of character traits, for want of a better expression, will create a good opportunity in that space? Because a lot of people will leave the military and say, I was in the army, therefore I'm going to get into security. Well, you might not want to do that. But you don't know how to get into it.
Well, they could do with a few of them up in Yorkshire around the Prime Minister's house, because apparently there's nobody there.
Oh, really?
Well, Greenpeace were all over the roof yesterday, and apparently nobody bothered to stop them. But anyway, sorry, I digress. But I mean, obviously people would imagine security, or people would imagine even the police, because I hear a lot of people in the police actually saying, why don't we recruit more military people? Because, they've got a shortfall.
That is also quite a well-trodden path. I mean, I know many who leave one uniform and put another one on because they like the structure. They like also providing a service.
Yes.
So again, as Gareth was saying, there's a match there on their ethics, where they're coming from, the way they operate.
Right. There was a suggestion a few years ago that you needed a degree to join the police. So if you've been joined the army at 17 and you left at 35 or whatever, and you didn't have a degree but you had a boatload of experience, you still couldn't, or perhaps wouldn't look at it.
Right. That's where I've got an issue with the NHS, on the basis that we have so many great medics.
Because you've talked about this before.
So many great medics with so much experience coming out, but they don't have a degree.
I mean, would that not qualify them to drive to be a paramedic in an ambulance situation? I
think the military are getting better at equating skills. I think it's civilianising the experience. It used to be 20 years ago, you could drive a military vehicle, but then you couldn't drive the same civilian vehicle because your license was different. It's the same with the paramedic qualification. So now they're getting a bit smarter, because that helps transition, that helps for a smoother, helps for less issues in the longer run if you've meaningfully transferred into a good job.
Right. And as far as your own experience, have you been in Australian forces as well as the British ones? Yeah. So how was that different? I mean, did they do it better there, or is it the same?
Well, do they do it better? I don't think they do it better. I think the same challenges and opportunities are there. The screwdriver is easier to reach down into a small organisation, I think, from strategically. They are similar beasts, but I think that the challenges and all the mindset that's out there within the military is the same. Whether you've been in the Aussie Army, American Marines, or anyone over here, obviously. But it's for me, and the work that we do, and I know a lot of the work that Hugh does, is getting people to listen, getting people to think differently, getting people to say, just because Johnny was a sergeant, don't have your unconscious bias or your preconceived ideas about what he's done or what he should do.
Yes.
Because that's unhealthy and unhelpful.
But knowing what I know about the US armed forces and the way that the Americans sort of treat their armed forces, they seem to do it better than we do, in the sense of, you walk into a diner in the middle of Connecticut and it's got a sign on the door saying,
that does make
discount for armed forces.
But I think, Johnny Mercer, to be fair, also, he often says, we've got an Office for Veterans Affairs that was established 3 years ago. The Americans was established during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
We're the last professional armed forces to have an Office for Veterans Affairs. So
I think it's often quite dangerous as well, comparing apples with oranges, and comparing us with the American culture and society. No veteran I've ever met, likes to be thanked for their service and given a free Starbucks coffee or whatever. We want something with a bit more sincerity and a bit more value to it, I think.
Okay. Tell us a bit about the new Veterans Can. Hugh mentioned it, I think, last week.
Yeah, so Veterans Can is an initiative we've kicked off over the last couple of months. And again, it's about talking positively about military service. It's about some changing perceptions. It's about changing the narrative. It's about, again, getting people to think differently about what they've done, how they've done it, and why they've done it. It's about getting people to think differently about their own military service and what that means when they leave.
Right.
It's about getting people to think differently about when they're receiving someone, as a ex-corporal or an ex-captain or whatever they think that means.
Right.
And there's a part of it as well, as I said, is about sort of connecting the global veteran. I think in a global world, there are Australians or Americans over here or vice versa who can't access the government fed support because they weren't in the military based in the UK, for example. So again, it's just trying to level the playing field, and importantly for me, it's trying to reset some of the balance. There's been a lot of negativity and a lot of pity peddled because there are a lot of the large charities that feed off those flames.
Yes.
Right? And we see it in the BBC. If there's a drama, if there's a veteran in it, he's rocking in the corner because he's got PTSD.
Right.
Well, not everyone has it,
Right.
and not everyone has it badly. And it's a spectrum. And so it's just an opportunity. It's a motion or a campaign or a movement to try and just agitate a little bit and get people to think a bit differently about themselves.
And maybe just normalise everything and not go, why did you be treated differently because you were a veteran or in the armed forces. I've just been handed a thing about a Veterans Oyster photo card.
Yeah, absolutely. So this sort of sums up what we've been talking about, especially for the veterans community, for their families out there not knowing things. So I was just doing a bit of research prior to coming on the programme, and I came across the Veterans Oyster photo card. I thought, I can't believe it. Right. If you served in the armed forces, you could get free and discounted travel on our transport services with a Veterans Oyster card.
That's good.
Well, that's really good. I've never heard about this. Then at the bottom there was a small print. You can get a Veterans photo card if you are receiving payments under the War Pension Scheme.
Right.
Or you're receiving guaranteed income payout under the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, which I immediately thought, well, that's not me, and it probably won't be a majority of it.
So that includes widows, widowers and dependents, so is this more for people who are sort of survivors of veterans' deaths?
Also, I thought, until Gareth then revealed that wasn't quite the case.
Yeah, I think the Oyster card is no good if you live in Blackpool or Glasgow, right? It's not particularly helpful. So, but I think my understanding is it's been superseded by the Veterans Rail Card. So the Veterans Rail Card is now a thing that's been around for 2 or 3 years, which offers
everyone's got one.
20%, 30%, I forget,
30%
off rail travel for any veteran throughout any time of day.
You can find a train to get on, of course.
Peak times as well.
That's the other thing. But also, and I did it this morning, funnily enough, so you can take your Veterans ID, Veterans Rail Card into a tube station and marry up your Oyster card and get the same 30% discount to an Oyster card.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's the best kept secret, right?
Well, it is. And if you're a family, everyone's going through really tough times at the moment, the cost of living.
I mean, travelling around is really expensive.
Yeah, really. And, and if you want to bring, when I was a little boy, my late mother, bless her, used to bring me up to London to see the sights. Well, for a family coming down from up north, from the West Country, coming up to London, they want to bring their children up. That's a good saving. 30%.
Well, my son's here at the moment doing a couple of days of work experience. It's about 30 quid to come in from basically Sussex.
Yeah.
In and back, and apparently the trains aren't running today, so who knows how he's going to get home.
The purpose the Veterans Rail Card was brought in was employment based, was to make commutable an easier thing, and a cheaper thing. I think again when you it just creates more opportunities and opens more doors for you if you're saving that 30% on travelling.
Well, it all helps, doesn't it? Every little helps, as they say.
Yeah,
if you can do it. Anything else you want to update us on today?
No, I mean that's really that's about it for today. We're meeting Steve Wall next week, who has and is building a veterans retreat in Spain.
Okay,
which looks really interesting. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him. I think the one sort of bit of news to make the community aware of is a veterans ID card. There's been a lot of noise about this. It's been issued to service leavers since 2018, so they can prove they were in the military. We don't have the stolen valour issue again that we mentioned. But
yeah, you mentioned that last week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. But I think it's I mean, the update from the Ministry of Defence is that they are on track to have all the veterans ID cards issued by the end of this year.
Started, I think. Started issuing.
Really? Okay. Well, the narrative's changed. Maybe they're stress testing the technology at the moment. We shall see, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, okay. And in the meantime, anyone, as I say, who wants to get in touch can do with your organisation as well as ours, obviously. And if they want to get in touch with you, Gareth, what's the best way to find you?
Yep, Job Oppo on the websites, on the socials. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. You know, we're quite a small organisation, and we'd like to punch above our weight and keep people.
And are you looking for anything in particular at the moment? Are you looking for anybody to do anything in particular industries or in particular jobs?
I mean, for us, it's about getting people to hear more about what we do, why we do it, how we do it. I think, as a small business, we do things differently. So if you're a veteran and you're looking for a career change or a new job, or if you're a service leaver and you're looking to network, because it's never too early to network. You know, as I said, that trust is always there, and people always bend over to help you. So, so absolutely, that's important for us.
I would like to steal a quick shout out because we have a requirement for 10 tree surgeons.
Okay.
Now, when I was sat in the
I had
office
somebody
looking
just
out
telling
the
me
window,
about a tree surgeon.
Do you know what? This is great. So the individual concerned works. I've known him for many years. He's a massive supporter of the armed forces. Paul Wilson, thank you. And he said, look, find me 10 veterans who want to get out the office, get away from, looking out the window, work outside in what is actually a really important job. He said, because our contract runs for 9 years, and we have to keep dying trees from falling off rail tracks, falling across motorways. And so with what I'd like to do is train up 10, or if you're already qualified, even better. They'd be based all around the southeast, etc., and ultimately keeping the highways, keeping the railways clear of fallen trees. But you'll be trained. You've got a 9-year contract. I think they're paying about £35,000 a year as a salary to work outside and climb trees.
Nice.
Wish I was younger.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Don't say we haven't got opportunities for you here at Talk TV. Guys, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Mike.
Hugh Andre, Gareth Williams there from Job Oppo. You can go and find that wherever you wish. That was, of course, the Veteran's Voice.
The Veteran's Voice.